Hey gang. Yeah, as you can tell, things have been a little more chaotic here than usual. But, since you're here, who wants to listen to me talk about the end of the Odyssey Block? Cool, let's get to that. Hi there everybody, bronies and Pegasisters of all ages. Welcome once again to Like a Ditzy Do, a video blog about the My Little Pony collectible card game. I am your host, the Nate Damn Z, and I don't know if I'm alone in thinking this, but I really think that the Odyssey Block was one of the best things to happen to this game of ours. And I don't mean the block format itself, though that's a really good idea, but what these four sets brought to the proverbial and literal table. Heck, when you get right down to it, it's my hot take that Equestrian Odysseys is when this game's growing pains officially stopped.
Officially!
And the game we know and love today was truly born. So much so that in a previous video, I even said that Equestrian Odyssey seemed like something of a soft reboot for the game. You know, quick aside with everything that's going on in another hobby of mine, I did learn that card games can go through edition changes just like tabletop RPGs. But even without all that, I think if you just take a minute to think about it, a lot of what we take for granted as a core part of the game started with these four sets. So with that in mind, I have some talking points and alright, let's go through them. So, way back, I'm thinking in between Premiere and Canterlot Nights, I was listening to an MLP podcast where they were interviewing one of the game's creators or developers. It's been so long I can't remember what the name of the podcast was or who exactly they were interviewing. And the host of the podcast was asking whoever it was he was interviewing when his mono white deck would become viable. I also have vague recollections of a lot of posts here and there across the internet talking about how they wanted just to have one color decks, or at the very least make it a lot easier because it's technically feasible with the original rule set. Well, Equestrian Odysseys finally granted this wish when they gave us problems that had wild requirements on both sides or color plus wild on the controller's side. Or specifically in the case of Equestrian Odysseys, there was a problem that had just straight up one color requirement. Honestly, I feel like this is just a great move if for no other reason that it will make teaching the game to new players a heck of a lot easier, or just make deck building easier overall. If nothing else, it gives us hardcore player, well, I don't want to call myself hardcore, but it gives all us players just more options. And after all, sometimes just using one color is a nice change of pace. Of course, something as literally game-changing as monocolor problems could have made the traditional two-color format obsolete. Luckily, Interplay thought of that, and it's the perfect segue into my next talking point, which is two-color cards. Now, I really don't think there can be any doubt that two-color cards being introduced in the same set that made monocolor viable was intentional. After all, not only do they keep the original two-color way of playing viable, but they reward that method of play with some really impressive cards and a new level of game complexity, if you're into that sort of thing. For my own tastes, I just really enjoy that two-color cards have an element of both of their colors. 9 times out of 10, I can immediately tell why a card is, say, purple and orange for a completely random example. Other than that, I can't really think of much more to say than I'm pretty sure this is a perfect example of what I was talking about in my introduction. Two-color cards feel like such an obvious and integral part of the game at this point. It's easy to forget there was a time when they simply weren't a thing. So much so when the first 3 color cards were introduced in Sequester and Beyond, it took me a minute or two to realize what a big deal that was. Next up, I want to talk about tokens. And honestly, I don't know why I keep forgetting High Magic exists when it introduced tokens, and it's probably one of my favorite new mechanics. Part of why I like tokens so much, though, is just how I sort of learned about it. Now, while I've learned through internet osmosis that this idea is pretty similar to one in a more popular card game, remember that I didn't follow pretty much any CCG news at all in the nearly 20 years between MLP CCG and Overpower. So when tokens were announced as one of the selling points of High Magic, I was intrigued. What were these mysterious tokens that Interplay wanted me to get so excited about? This may have led to a little bit of confusion on my end when the first token was revealed on the MLP CCG Twitter, because all I saw was a friend without cost or requirement. I may have thought that was kind of broken. Of course, once it was explained to me or I figured out how tokens worked, I honestly don't remember which, I just sort of fell in love with the idea. Though I'm really not sure I can explain why. I guess I just like being able to summon all these different kinds of friends, some of them with entirely new traits. It just seems like so much fun. And with new types of tokens still being introduced, even as we learn more about the next block, it looks like there's still plenty of fun to be had. I'm really excited. And yeah, my next talking point is dilemmas. I know it's pretty much a running gag at this point, but I can't talk about the game being what it is today without talking about dilemmas, so just let me go over a couple of bullet points real quick, I guess. Problems played from your hand is a really neat idea. Every pony seems to love them. They have continued into the next block, so they're probably here to stay. And, just a little addendum. Making them technically resources as far as rules is concerned is probably smart, if for no other reason than we don't need Mod Pie Destroyer Worlds being able to go up to 8 power. I know she's not nearly the threat she used to be these days, but still I think that was smart. I'm sure there's plenty of other reasons why them being resources is noteworthy, but I honestly don't know what they are. Feel free to let me know in the comments. And my last talking point, which is probably the least important to every pony except me, I really appreciate that Yellow has so many more cards that really don't have anything to do with critters. Way back, about 3.5 years ago, in my very first official episode, I may have mentioned that Yellow being so critter focused was really frustrating to me. Now, Yellow is still absurdly, ridiculously critter focused. But let me try to give an example of what I'm talking about using that show's subject, namely the 1/1/1s. Yellow received 3 new 1/1/1s in the Odyssey's block, and while 2 of them are in fact critters, none of them require critters to work and play into Yellow's other gimmicks really well. Falcon. Building a Yellow deck without any critters no longer feels like an exercise in frustration, and even if you do include critters, you can do that without the deck feeling like it's all about critters. Plus, Yellow's other gimmicks got plenty of great new cards, and Yellow even has spiffy new keywords. Honestly, I don't know if I realized that Yellow had other gimmicks besides critters until Equestrian Odysseys. Now, those are all the really talking points I thought of that I really felt like I had something to say, but that's no means. I know there's plenty of other stuff that Equestrian Odysseys has brought to the table that has really helped define the game. And the other 3 sets, obviously, because this is all about Equestrian Odyssey's block. Going back to what I talked about, I will say that the block format did probably help this game a lot. If nothing else, it just provided all these different ways to play, new things to consider, like can I build this deck with these cards or not. Basically, while I haven't really given much thought to building decks only in certain blocks, just the buzz as soon as this idea was announced, just always positive. The only real thing I heard negative is I saw a lot of people complaining about how Enterplay was never doing anything with the format. But at the time those complaints were happening, the Odyssey's block hadn't finished yet, so I really don't know what Enterplay could have done. But of course now they've also introduced the core format to help with that, so there you go, what do I know? But yeah, as stated, please continue this discussion. What elements did the entire Odyssey's block bring to the table that you just absolutely love and think the game is so much better for? What do you think I missed? Do you want to add anything to what I had to say? And as we get ready for my next episode, we are not quite done talking about the Odyssey's block yet, because there is still one very important question that needs answered. Tell me, every pony, who is best princess?